I'm just watching some of the comments come in just before we get underway, and I introduce you to Antony. We've got one person here saying they hope they've got the, what was it? Voltaren ready, and then someone said, Bug, I thought we ran with rum or whiskey internally was better for back pain. So I think we're going to have a fun audience today, Antony. Anyway, so welcome everyone. It's great to have you here today. This is a Brainstorm Cafe webinar. It's going to be about 20 minutes, but listening to the way Antony talks, I think he could go on for an hour about our back problems and our sedentary lifestyle. So look, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and Antony will be very entertaining. He's got some great stories to share. So far, all our business webinars have been focused on business subjects, but because of our sedentary lifestyle, we tend to sit on our bums a lot. And so Antony's going to talk through us about why us as business owners spend so long sitting down and what we can do about it. So Antony's got a long list of credentials. I won't repeat them because we'll be here till 11. But all I can say is Antony knows what he's talking about. So welcome, Antony.
Thanks, Jamie. Good to be here.
Thanks for coming. So one of the first things, can you tell me why you've got an interest in backs? I know you're a physiotherapist, but you could focus on any part of the body. So why did you end up focusing on back problems?
That's a good question, Jamie. So back pain is the single biggest disability in the world right now. And that hasn't always been so, and we've got to look at why that is happening and why more and more people are getting disabled by back pain. And it's got something to do with our lifestyle. And there are definitely differences in the way we should be treating back pain now. The whole frame of treatment reference has changed for how we treat back pain. And I think what we could talk about today is what people should be doing when they get back pain, because the first thing most people do is run off to the practitioner and they want something done to them. So a bit of pushing and pulling and slapping and tickling, as the surgeons call it. And we know that gives people relief, but it doesn't really fix anything. We are this unique self-healing organism, and we get better over time, and a bit of pain is okay. And really, we just need to keep moving in many instances, and we will come right.
Antony, that was interesting. Self-healing. Tell me about our self-healing body.
Yeah, that's right.
Why is it like that? Is it really self-healing?
It is self-healing, and we're an animal, Jamie. So, and we forget that, I think. We live so much in our heads today and less in our bodies physically.
So this is a little bit about this here, the animalistic way.
Yeah, that's right.
So you've got an image of me up there. Yeah, thank you.
So we share, more than 90% of our DNA with chimpanzees. So we are an animal, and I think we forget that, as I was saying. 95 to 99% of us, our back pain is nothing majorly structurally wrong with our back. So, there's 1 to 5% of us that have cancer or fracture or a major disc herniation, that's pushing out on a nerve root and giving us weakness and numbness. Those are really problematic, but that's 1 to 5% of back pain. The rest of it is more what we do with our backs. It's more lifestyle orientated, and so we need to get out of the back pain practitioner's office and look at where we spend the rest of the day and how the effect that has on our back pain. So how we work and play and what we do during the day and all of these other things come into play, and that's what we should be talking about today.
And I guess this slide here, this gentleman here, is a very good example of how a lot of us spend our day, even though we don't know we're doing that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think if you look at, depends which study you look at, but we can be sitting or looking at screens on average 9 hours a day. And so if you take that, most of that looking at screens is sitting, and if we look at our 16-hour awake day, some of us can be sitting 75% of our day, so up to 12 and a half hours. Now the research is pretty clear on that. If you sit more than 6 hours a day, your all-cause mortality risk is 30% greater than somebody who moves within an hour and sits for less than 6 hours a day. Now if you double it, so if you go up to 12 hours a day, which, as I said, a lot of us are doing, they're sitting 70% of our day, that all-risk mortality rate suddenly goes up to 200% greater than people who are sitting less than 6 hours and moving within an hour. So it's not just the volume of sitting that we're doing, but it's our inactivity. It's how long we're sitting for in any given period of time. So if you sit more than 10 hours, one researcher said that you can't offset that with 1 hour of exercise at either end of the day, which is what a lot of us are trying to do.
Yeah.
We need to be getting up and moving during the day. Within an hour, we need to be getting up and moving around.
So is there a difference between male and female?
No, there's not really a male-female difference. It's all to do with so back pain is some of it is to do with activity levels. So there's a group of people in the population that get pain who do very little movement, and they get pain because there's prolonged joint loading in one position. So joints don't like sitting idling in one position for a long period of time. They like to move, they like to be taken through their full range of movement, and they like to be strong. So strong muscles equals strong joints. So if we're not moving and we're sitting for long periods of time, we're getting weak from sitting, and our joints are point loading, and they don't like doing that. So the American guidelines for health and wellness, and these are very well researched guidelines, are that we should be doing 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity exercise a week, but within that, which could be half an hour to an hour a day, 5 days a week, but within that, we must be doing 2 strengthening sessions. Now, a lot of people that come to see me with musculoskeletal pain, so hip pain, knee pain, back pain, they're not doing those strengthening sessions. And from the age of 30 or just before 30, we lose strength decade on decade about 6 to 8%. So we're losing our strength as we age, and we don't get strong from sitting for long periods of time. So we need to be doing some strengthening as part of our overall exercise regime, and we need to be moving often, so frequently, so that we're not doing this prolonged idling in one position. And that can be giving us our back pain.
There's another slide here. So you mentioned the animalistic. What can we learn from animals? And I'm also going to say, what can we learn from babies and young kids who don't have back problems? Talk to me about the animalistic stuff that we have left behind as we've moved into houses and spend our time sitting down at screens.
That's right. Well, so you know, a lot of people say that our problems came from when we moved from all fours to being on 2 feet. But you know, we were very robust. You know, we were gambling around on all fours. We were swinging through the trees. We're now become a very leg dominant animal. We're quite weak in our upper body. And you know, we really need to be moving a lot more than we used to. So when 1,000 years ago, we were hunter-gathering, and we were moving around a lot during our day, 2 to 3 hours of foraging for our food, you know, being chased by tigers, chasing after our food. We were much more robust. And I think actually the biggest perhaps modern cause of back pain is division of labor. So we have these very narrow skill sets where we do one thing repetitively or maintain one position repetitively or for long periods of time. So we're either a concrete layer and we spend a long period of time bending over and we get painful from that, or we're an office worker and we spend, as we said, you know, 10 to 12 hours doing that and we get pain from doing that. So we need to, you know, fast forward to the modern era, and we need to be moving around a lot more than we think we do. And actually, it's worth saying that at the other end of that spectrum, so there's people that sit and don't move enough, and then there's people that do too much. So your Olympic rowers that, you know, are rowing 30 hours a week. Now they're getting pain from overloading those joints from too much load. So there's this sweet spot in activity that we need to, if we're doing too much, we need to sort of, you know, come back down a bit. And if we're doing too little, we need to come up a little bit.
So the sweet spot, we've all seen animals do this. If we've got a cat will do it. A dog will do it. And I'm sure every wild animal does it as well. Now, you mentioned before stretching and strength. Tell me about the stretch that's going on here, and how does a human replicate that?
Yeah, isn't that great? So, and what's been happening is, you know, the lion here has been sitting for a long period of time, joint loading in one position, and then it's got up because we know that joints like being taken through their full range of movement. So she's got up and she's having a good stretch to take her joint through its full range of movement. But it's not all about stretching. We can get a lot of our mobility by just moving. We don't need to spend long periods of time stretching. We need to get moving, and that's the main thing. So what this lion will do is she'll have a good stretch, but then she'll get off and she'll get moving, and she'll be chasing after things and moving around and staying robust. So often the stiffness that we feel is a type of tissue pain. It's not actually a true mechanical restriction. So a lot of people make a mistake of stretching hard into their pain, whether it's bending forward hard into their pain. For a lot of people, don't do that. If you're sitting all day, then bend backwards, bend away from your pain. And there's a whole sort of treatment philosophy around bending the opposite way to where you spend most of your positioning. But it is so for those people that are sitting in offices, the old bending backwards, the Mackenzie bending backwards is a really good technique to just move out of that position. But the stiffness is not really a true stiffness for most of us. It's actually just a tissue pain, and that can be from overloaded joints from doing too much or too hard activity, that feeling of stiffness, or it can be a feeling of stiffness from not moving enough. So as I said, there's this activity sweet spot.
All right. Now, we've had a question coming on the screen here from Emily, who asking about standing desks.
Yeah.
Rather than sitting at a desk, standing. Did you have a theory or want to talk about that?
That's a great question. So they gave people that got pain from sitting at offices all day, they gave them standing desks, and it did not get rid of their pain. Now, if you stand all day, you'll get just as much pain as if you sit all day. So what we say, and a lot of people will spend a lot of time setting up their ergonomics in the workplace. Now, it's not about ergonomics, it's about moving. So the best posture is the next posture. So changing the loading on the joints, getting the big muscles moving, taking the joints through their full range of movement. That's what it's about. So if you do use a standing desk, which I suggest is a very good tool for the workplace, it needs to go up and down. The best desk would be one that has a 20-minute timer on it and goes up and down irrespective, every 20 minutes. So you're sitting down and it goes up, and then you're standing, and then 20 minutes later it goes down and you're sitting. It's the changing positions and the moving that's important. So standing desks, yes, great, but if you stand all day, you'll get just as much pain as if you sit all day.
Now, that was a great quote. The best posture is your next posture.
That's right.
Otherwise, don't stay in one place for very long. So are you saying every half hour or every hour?
That's right.
Get up and do something.
Yeah, absolutely, as much as you can. I heard listening to Simon Sinek the other day talking about work-life balance, and he said, well, it shouldn't be two opposing forces. We should be trying to smooth it out, and we feel that the onus is on us to do all our health and wellness outside of the workplace. But actually, if you feel like getting up and doing some movement in the middle of the day, get up and do that. Try and smooth that out and bring your health and wellness into the office. So if at lunchtime you feel like going out for a run, go out for a run in the middle of the day, and our productivity is better for it. We oxygenate our brain, which has been sitting there idling and getting slower and slower. And there's some great studies that show that, the longer we sit, the more mistakes we make on the back keys, the slower we are at problem solving. You get somebody straight off a treadmill, they're very fast and quick at problem solving. Mm-hmm. So we're more productive if we're moving.
So that's been tested, and it's empirical evidence.
There's empirical evidence. There's some great studies out there. Yeah, and very simple. They just checked back keys, they checked mouse movement, they checked speed of typing over time, and it just drops off the longer you're sitting there. So you're getting up not just to move your big joints and muscles, but you're getting up to raise your metabolism. And what we know is that if you sit for 30 minutes, your metabolism drops 90% from what you were doing 30 minutes prior. Now, that prolonged idling, we call it the silent assassin, because over 30 to 40 years, you'll end up with these high risk mortality, in this high risk mortality category, just from prolonged motionlessness. So the evidence is really compelling. There's no sort of compulsion by the drug companies or any of these other companies that are at the bottom of the cliff, sort of picking up all the knee joint replacements and the stents and the hearts. They're happily doing those. But if we got people 30 to 40 years earlier and said, look, move often and get out of this sedentary position as much as you can, you can change people's mortality rates, and the research supports that.
Well, this is not an infomercial, but you have written the book, and look, I've enjoyed over the last few days reading some of the great quotes from it. Now, tell us a little about your view on surgery.
Surgery. Look, I've got a friend who's an orthopedic surgeon, and they work, exceptionally hard, and they're very dedicated human beings, and they're dedicated to putting people back together from car crashes and all these nasty accidents. And when you've got cancer, they've got to go in there and shore up parts of your spine, and when you've got fractures, they've got to do the same thing. But the evidence is very clear. If you're in that 95% of people that have back pain that is non-structural, so you don't have a cancer or a fracture or a major disc herniation that's pushing out on a nerve and making you weak and numb in your leg, then you shouldn't be facing surgery. And they did a quick survey at a surgeon's conference a couple of years ago and said, would you have a spinal fusion for non-specific back pain? And 99% of them said no.
Wow.
The surgeons are very good now. But a lot of people still turn up at the surgeon's door saying, look, I've got pain. Can you please fix me? And that's where we've got to say, well, look, with some great advice and some guidance, that's where we go, well, look, how about doing a bit of strengthening and a bit of well-paced movement? And if you're too sore walking outside, well, let's get you walking in the pool, which is a much more buoyant and supportive environment. But if you have, at any time during the day, if you're pain-free, and if you have any pain-free type of activity, then let's build on that and get you pain-free in other activities and in other parts of your day.
Now, in this book, you mentioned babies or toddlers don't bend to pick up things.
That's right.
They squat to pick up things.
Yeah.
And then as we get older, we start to bend and bend and bend.
That's right.
Tell me the theory on that, and should we really go back to wearing diapers and squatting?
I'm not sure we should be wearing diapers, going back to diapers, but what is very clear is up until sort of those early couple of years, if you watch a child bend, pick up a toy, they don't actually bend. They just squat down and grab something off the floor. So they squat to pick things up, and only 40 degrees of our ability to bend forward comes from our back. 70 degrees comes from our hips. So, part of the whole range of being able to bend and lift is coming, that power is coming through from our hips. So part of back pain management is really getting people moving through their hips and working, strengthening around their spine, but getting them really moving through their hips. And if we look, a lot of the Asian cultures will squat on, you'll see them, squatting down and they're on the side of the street, and they're having their lunch, and they've got this marvelous range of movement in their hips. And
they don't have sit-down toilets.
No, and they don't have sit-down
places.
toilets. That's right. And we have these sort of sit-down toilets which stop us, halfway to our full squat, and we just don't spend much time down there. So, and when we do pick things up, we bend over from our back, which is normal and fine, but we just, we don't do enough sort of hip range of movement. So that's a good part of sort of back pain management is squatting and lunging and getting your hips moving. Yeah.
Now, there's a great quote here. If your doctor's primary approach to your recovery lies in pain medication, you need different expertise. Now, that's a bit provocative, isn't it?
Yeah, look, that came from a top spinal biomechanist, Stuart McGill from Waterloo University in Canada. And the same thing, he said, if all you get from your physio is a list of exercises, and all you get from your chiropractor is repeated manipulations, and all you get from your GP is medication, you're not really heading down the right route. It's more about finding your pain-free movements and doing lots of those and building on them. And he's completely right. So I think, now we had some exercises, did we, up here?
Yes, so
that we could go through.
I want to talk about that one.
I think what we're saying here is you don't need to be an elite athlete, or in New Zealand here we have the coast to coast, which people do. This is Ted Ligety here, who's had spinal surgery, an Olympic gold medalist. But you do want to, the people that get into trouble are the people that have one type of activity and they do a lot of it. What you really want to do, the people I don't see that much of are the short course triathletes, you know, who swim one day and then they jog the next and then they cycle the next. They've got this lovely mixture of different things that they do. Where you get into trouble is if you just row for 30 hours a week and stuck in that position, you know, doing that same thing. So I think what we're saying here is we can all become our own triathletes, and we should have a range of things that we should be doing.
To be fair, he's got a wee way to go to become a triathlete. At least he's out there.
That's right.
And that's probably all what you're saying is get out there and do it. Now, tell me about how the loads on these people
I think one of the things that people think is that spines, you know, that we shouldn't load spines, and you know, and that all pain is bad, and pain can just be telling us, hey, just do less of that and more of something else. Your spines are very robust and they handle a lot of load, and I was talking to Guy Cotter from Adventure Consultants, and actually we had dinner with Ang Dorje, who's climbed Everest 20 times now. And we were talking about, you know, the sort of loads he was carrying up Everest. And he said, oh, you know, I carried about 400 meters of fixed line and some oxygen bottles. I said, oh, how heavy is that? And he said, oh, it's about 45 kilos. I said, oh, you must get, you know, do you get tired in your hips and your knees? And, you know, and he goes, no, that's fine. And he goes, that's nothing compared to what the Sherpas carry into Everest Base Camp. You know, they're carrying, these guys are 55 to 65 kilos, and they're carrying 90% of their body weight. So they're carrying on average about 40 kilos plus. Some of them are carrying 175% of their body weight, so 100 kilograms. And I said to Guy, I said, oh, do they you know, the Sherpas that you have been employing for the last 20 years, they must get a lot of sort of back pain and hip pain. And he goes, no, they don't complain of musculoskeletal pain. They've got other issues, but it's not musculoskeletal. And so we looked up the surveys on these guys, and there's a couple of research articles, and as I said, you know, they can be carrying, you know, for 3 weeks into base camp, you know, 100 kilograms, somewhere from 40 to 100 kilograms. But what they do is they don't walk for more than 5 minutes without a break. So they'll walk for 5 minutes, they'll put a T-shaped stick under their backside and then just sit and slouch for 5 minutes, and then they're off again. So they're loading and then unloading and loading and then unloading, which is, say, for us at a standing desk. You know, we stand and there's different loads on our spine when we stand and we sit. We stand for 20 minutes and then we sit for 20 minutes, and we're changing the loads on our spine. These guys have got a nice sort of, they've got their weight through a nice straight spine. And the other thing I think is the consistency. You know, they've been carrying for years. They've built up this great consistency. And if we go back to those American guidelines of, you know, consistently trying to do a couple of strengthening sessions a week, these guys have been doing that, you know, year in, year out. So the things that get us are doing no strength and conditioning, you know, for long periods of time, and then suddenly helping somebody shift house, you know, and trying to lift a 100 kg fridge, or doing no strength and conditioning for a long period of time and then suddenly stacking wood for 4 hours on a Saturday. You know, those sort of overload conditions, that's not our back being out. That's just, that's a good back that's just a little bit overloaded and a bit sore.
I like this one, and we can talk about this a little bit. Getting older is not a cause of back pain. No, I don't have back pain. Maybe right. I'm not old enough.
That's right.
Hopefully I'd never get it. Maybe there's a little bit of a story here as well that we put up on the screen.
Look, so I think one of the take-homes from today is that, you know, we are our own best medicine. You know, movement is medicine, and we're our own best practitioner. So with a bit of guidance, you know, from a therapist, you know, it's what you do outside the four walls of the therapy room in your life that will make really big differences to your back pain. Now, this 92-year-old ski racer who's an ex-high country farmer has been moving all his life. And he's had terrible cases of back pain when he's been crutching sheep and, you know, lifting sheep over.
So he's 92 right now.
So he's 92.
Wow.
And still ski racing. But he moves. If you watch him, it's my father.
I was waiting for you to tell everyone that.
If you watch him, he moves, and he moves a lot. And when I was down in Queenstown working with the New Zealand Winter Olympic team, he was telling me that building up to the ski season, he builds up to 300 squats per day. And I said, oh, I don't remember telling you that, Dad. Did I tell you to do squats? He goes, no, I just realized that skiing is squatting. So, there he's so he's building up capacity to what he wants to do. And so people come up and go, oh, Paul, it's marvelous that you're doing this. And it's not really marvelous. He's worked out that strengthening and moving is really good, and that enables you to be strong and be mobile. So I think, it's great to have these outliers for us all to aspire to.
Yeah. Great to be able to talk about your dad like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe just talk through, and this is your dad again.
Yes, that's right.
Doing some basic stuff that maybe we should all be doing. I'll step back and you can just talk through them one by one, just spend a couple of minutes there.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So as we said, if you're spending a long period of time in a bent position, it's good to just get out like that lioness and stretch the opposite way. But also strong muscles equals strong joints. So we do want to have good capacity around our spine. And there are 6 sort of basic boot camp exercises to maintain your strength around your spine. So we talked about strengthening your hips. So squats and lunges are really good for getting that mobility through your hips. And remember, 70% of your ability, or 70 degrees of your ability to bend forward comes from your hips. And then we used to be very keen on talking about core in back pain. We now talk about corset because we realize it's the whole trunk that stabilizes the spine. So there are these exercises that do the side parts of the trunk. So side planking, there's exercises to do the front parts of the trunk, there's the front plank, and down here, which you probably can't see, is sort of a dead bug exercise, pushing your back down against the ground and moving your legs and contracting your tummy muscles. And then this forgotten bird dog exercise, which does the back part of the corset. Now remember, there will be some people who are incredibly strong with incredibly strong trunk muscles. Now they're with back pain that are probably overloading themselves. So it's not a one group of exercises fixes all. Most of us don't do enough strengthening, but at the other end of the spectrum, there are some people who are just that have too much activation of their muscles around their spine and are too tight, and they get pain. So adding more strengthening to them won't make them better.
So I see a question coming from a lady called Faye, talking about a 77-year-old. Now, what exercises should she do? Well, probably what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
Male or female, doesn't make any difference.
No, that's right. And so when we were putting out the book, we said, oh, well, should we get a nice, a model, a nice looking young female model to demonstrate the exercise? And we went, well, no, actually, we really should get a 90-year-old because as you lose your strength decade on decade at that 6 to 8% loss of strength, then you end up as a 90-year-old unable to move around and get out of a chair. And so you definitely need to be able to do these exercises when you're in your 70s. And you should really be doing them consistently, for periods of time throughout your life, and making sure that you can do, sort of 30 squats, and you can, hold a side plank for 30 seconds, and you can hold a plank for 60 seconds. That's being able to hold your own body weight against gravity. And if you can't hold your own body weight against gravity, then we need to shore that body up with some strength.
Anthony, this has been great. I can see that we've gone to 27 minutes. We started off as 20. I knew this would happen, but you're not paying for it, so you're getting a lot for free anyway. And I don't want to spook the book, but I actually will, because I've read this book, and Antony wrote it, and it's got some brilliant ideas. There's a heck of a lot of stuff in here. And so what we're going to do at the end of this webinar or later on today, we'll send out where you can buy the book, because it is very focused on what Antony has been talking about today. And I've got so many little yellow tabs in there. I think I'll go and change my lifestyle, but there's some excellent stuff in here, Antony. So, and thank you very much for everyone who's joined us today. I see quite a few questions are coming too, so we might share those with Antony later on. And because we've got your email address, he might feel inclined to answer you personally. Yes. Do you want to undertake that without too much obligation?
We'll see about that.
I put him in the corner here.
Quite a few questions.
Sorry about that.
But yes, so if you're in New Zealand and you want to get hold of a copy of the book, you can email me on that email that goes out this afternoon. and that's probably the easiest way. They're $45 plus postage. But if you're anywhere else in the world, you can just get it on Amazon, and then there's obviously the ebook forms on the iStore and Kindle and all those other and Google Play and all those other versions. So yeah, please, everything we've talked about, download it and have a read.
It's been great to have you here today. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks to the audience for joining in.
Thanks, Tony.
And we've had a great 25, 27 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.